Hi there. Conversation number 2 with Andy Mort. And we ponder. Oh, we ponder all sorts of stuff. The music, the songs that Andy was speaking about last episode, the album that came through. He's played a little bit more with that, so we just do a check in there. And that kind of takes us into creation, into creativity, and into the the spirit of it and the spirit of what I do or how I show up. Uh, we speak about gifts too, quite a lot about gifts in the context of creativity and creative output and what do you do with them. So dive in with us and enjoy. Hi, Andy.
Hello.
Hi. How are
Hi.
you?
I am very well, thank you. Yes,
I'm glad to hear it. I
looking
have
forward to this.
seen pictures of you sitting behind a drum set.
That is true.
That
Yes.
is true.
That happened last week. Yeah. Yeah. Advancing the songs that I talked about last time, which had
Yeah.
come out of nowhere and are now growing up very fast like good little children. Yeah.
That is a good analogy. The children analogy.
Yeah, I've really felt that. I was exploring it the other day in my journal, thinking about how the songs are moving and becoming their own little entities, and how, you know, although obviously they do look different, but a lot of babies look kind of the same when they're newborn. Um, and then as they grow, you start to sort of see their characteristics emerging and the little unique idiosyncrasies and things like that, which, yeah, it feels like I'm at that stage. And it was because I was thinking, because I've quite intentionally left space between different parts of the process. So I, wrote those songs in that very short period of time back in October, and then said, okay, I'm not going to touch them again for a while because and it was almost like, because that would be trying to force a newborn baby to talk or
Mm.
walk before they've naturally got to that place in their development. So yeah, I love a metaphor. I'm running with this one.
That's cool. So did you borrow a drum set or you went over to somebody who has one or
I borrowed it. Yeah, I've got a friend who, yeah, I very cheekily sent her a message saying, someone who I actually got playing drums, taught her a number of years ago now. Um, I was like, okay, ask a favor. I need to, yeah, because it just seemed like the next obvious thing to do in the song development was get some rhythm on there, shape it. It's almost like the bones, the
yeah.
structure, the skeleton. So yeah, she was very accommodating. So I borrowed it for. I don't know how long she was expecting me to have it for, but was very surprised when within 3 days I was returning it because I'd been again very productive in quite a short period of time. But yeah,
So now it's an incubation time again?
it's nearly an incubation time. I'm currently doing some padding out of the arrangements, so I'm putting down little vocals. Basically, by the end of this week, I'll have fully formed demos, and then it will be incubation,
Cool.
and yeah, and then working out where to go next, which will
So do
be
you
fun.
just do this like in recordings? You don't write sheet music out of this
No, it's
or
all
like
recordings.
it's all
Yeah.
recordings.
hmm
Oh,
Yes, I'm very grateful to the age of technology for that. It's yeah. I mean, trying to think how I used to do it, because it's so easy now, obviously with computers and digital audio workstations and stuff, that I remember doing it with 4-track recorders, tape recorders when I was a kid, and like overdubbing. Well, first of all, you'd have I'd have two tape.
Tape
Oh man, I'd
recorders.
forgotten about this. Yeah, two tape recorders, and I'd record like a basic thing on one, and then play that loud enough and play along with another instrument,
And
record it onto the other one,
mm.
and then
And
just
then
back and
you
forth.
would,
Yeah,
so you would add a layer, kind of
you'd add a layer, and the quality would
drop.
deteriorate with every single time. Yeah, that's quite fun. But yeah, no, that's how I used to when I was a kid, and I recorded songs. But it's a lot easier now. Mm.
Cool. So what
Yeah.
else is happening for you?
Um, what else is happening? I'm thinking about goals. I always think about goals this time of year. Um, sort of beginning of December. I like to like reflect on the previous year, think about what the next year might have in store, and then make some subtle shifts through December so that when I hit January, I'm already running, as opposed to I don't know, probably all experienced that thing of trying to start new things at the beginning of January out of the busy festive season and into the bleak grey season,
Mm.
and it's really, really tough. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking about that at the moment, and also thinking about how, especially with all this music stuff, how different things might be to how I might have thought they would be about 2 months ago, because there wasn't going to be any music involved in 2022 in this respect. So yeah, reflecting
So
on that.
do you do goals? Are you a
I
goal
used
person?
to. I don't really anymore. I'm more of a well, I'm a map maker. So with I developed a program earlier this year called the Return to Serenity Island, which was in part a response to my own aversion to really clinical corporate goal setting, and to make it playful and fun and yeah, a creative process. So yeah, I now have um, like a map of the island of my life, like Serenity Island, which has all the different areas of life on it. Um, and yeah, just kind of think about the seeds that I want to plant in each of those areas and the stuff that I want to grow within it. And that's really how my goals now look. Um, yeah,
Because it's interesting. You don't strike me as a goal person. I
no,
think that's why I reacted to your use of the word goal. I stopped setting goals for myself. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago or something, or
mm,
maybe that's just how it feels. But I've I set yearly intentions instead,
yeah,
kind of
that
a
way.
flavor of the year, or like like a focal point that's more like a light beacon, a lighthouse shining a light of a particular quality, or
Hmm.
rather than like a goal post. I have to get through this
Yeah,
thing. It's like, no, I don't want that feeling. I want the infusion of an
mm,
intention, rather than everything has to kind of get through this hurdle for it to, or a number of hurdles for that matter. It's like,
yeah,
nice. That doesn't feel um,
nice.
right at all.
Yeah.
And last year, I started my year at um, the first day after the winter solstice. So, I don't know, 20th of December or 19, or,
Hmm.
around there, 19, 20, 21 something. And because somehow, and it's been a growing sensation. I didn't do it the year before because it just didn't, you're just like, I didn't. But last year I did, and it felt, this is something about that makes more sense in my system
Mm-hmm.
than January 1st.
I like
Uh,
that. Yeah.
and I think it is because the solstice involves more physical entities. It's like it's a physical thing rather than the, again, kind of the intellectual aspect of the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, but I've yet to. I had some inkling of what my intention for next year might be, but I've kind of forgotten. It's
Yeah, I was going to
probably
say,
in
how do
some
you
writing.
how do
Yeah,
you come up with them?
they kind of come. Um, they have been that they kind of. It's like you say, they. It's like a seed that just starts to sprout, and then I go, ah, that's the thing.
Mm.
So it's been different. Um, this year it's been a lot about all of me, not
Right.
not one part of me, but listening to all of me, my entire body, the embodied sense of showing up with all, not
Mm-hmm.
just here's the intellectual Helena, but rather here's all of Helena. Mm. So that's been a large part of, of this year.
Can you
Um,
remember the moment that you captured that as an intention?
that one was an interesting one because that one took place over, that one I think showed up already in October last year. It was
Right.
just, ah, this is the one. Uh, so that one was very, very clear. It was like, this wasn't a little subtle nudge. It was like, bam,
Mm-hmm.
here it is. Okay, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
um, but this year, it's like, I don't really know. It'll be interesting to see what shows up. And I've had one word. A couple of years ago, I had being more. I think the one that I have this year. It's been a gradual. I've been coming towards it. A couple of years ago, I had the difference between digital and analog and being more conscious of
Right.
what I put into my life. What is digital presence? What is analog presence? And how can I dance
Mm-hmm.
with these so that I am conscious of what I do and why I do it? And that one, I think for an outsider, that one probably looked much more goaly because I set up like I broke that big intention down into smaller intentions.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing because I very much work in a similar way to you with the intention or the spirit. Like, the past couple of years, I've been thinking in terms of like the spirit with which I engage this year or over however long it might be. Um, and then that would be the same kind of the same different word for the same thing. And then from there, you might end up having some very tangible goals as you address certain parts of life where it's like, oh no, I want to show up with that in that spirit more there. So that is going to require me to, just shift this and that and yeah, it's just changing your relationship with goals. Are you being driven by this idea that a goal is going to somehow change everything, or are you changing things because of the seeded intention, the seeded spirit that you're engaging with the world through? Um, and yeah, they can probably look very similar, but they're coming from a completely different foundation. Because I've kind of seen that with goals. It's the thing that frustrates me with, and when there's an obsession with goal setting as the thing, when it's like you're trying to get somewhere else as
Mm.
opposed to you're you're bringing the truth of you through the surface. And that's why I really like that sort of seeding and island analogy, because it's like, no, you're planting those seeds from within and they're coming out, as opposed to going out there and trying to find the thing that's going to make
Yeah.
you
And kind of
whole and
sculpt
complete.
you into, fit into the
Yeah,
image
exactly.
of. Uh, yeah, it's an external scaffolding of sorts that I'm trying
Exactly.
to drape myself over instead of what's from the inside, like the rhythm of your songs being the bones, the skeleton
Mm,
of the songs. It's like, yeah, here they are. It's like
yeah.
uh, finding it, and that aspect of it can look the same, and in some way it can be the same things that you do, but where you come from plays such a big part. That's one of the things that I really realized when I kind of stopped being duktig flicka, good girl,
Mm-hmm.
um, which, or high achiever, is like I used to come from a place of I'm not good enough. I have to prove myself for others. I need the validation of external people in order to. And I was so productive, you
Mm-hmm.
know. The things I could churn out from that place was just wow. So when I started to question that and really wanting to step away from that way of being in the world, that was one of my biggest fears. Will I now not be as productive? Won't I do anything?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that was, and kind of it is, that is a part of my identity, this, high capacity, high achieving, yes. But as I worked with that, coming to the place of I I do what I do because I want to do it. I
Mm-hmm.
do what I do because it comes from within, you know, and a lot of times it is this, I don't need anybody to tell me, oh, that was good, or thank you, or whatever. It's like, I know I've done it. I've done my thing. And it kind of shocked me. I
Mm-hmm.
can still churn out a lot of stuff. I'm still high throughput, high
Yeah.
efficiency, high achieving, there's still that. But the feeling I have doing it is completely different because I
Mm,
come from it from another point of view, it's another entryway, it's another starting point.
that's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking like it kind of chimes with what you say about the prescriptive versus descriptive approach as well. And motivations, like, because I mean, your output might look exactly the same before and after that revelation. Um, but it's almost like there's a motivation driving before, which is like, I need to get this done. I need to be liked or get approval or whatever it is, kind of driving the motivation. Whereas when it comes from that in inner into the outer direction, there's almost no motivation. It's just blossoming. It's just an expression. It's just the thing that happens. I'm not motivated to do this. I'm just doing it, like it just is happening. Um, and that feels different. That feels expansive rather than constrictive. It feels like you're giving out rather than kind of hoarding or bringing in. Um, yeah, these are so difficult things to describe because they're like, yeah, almost intangible feelings. But
And so just because of that, I think it's so important to be in conversation with them, however kind of halting you kind of feel, and inadequate in trying to describe, but it is important things to do. And that um last time we were talking about this constricting or expansive feeling, I have brought that one with me. I have had that one with me ever since our last conversation.
with you,
And it's been It's another it's another clue. It's another very physically felt clue for me as to, what wants to happen.
Mm.
Because it gets me out of the what do I want to happen here, and opens for that other things. I was actually This is interesting. I wasn't consciously thinking about this. Last week I was sent a question if I wanted to get engaged in a scheme of sorts, a team effort that I've been involved in for the past 5, 6 years, and in various degrees, and with a lot of frustration.
Right.
Right. So it's been a lot of fun. I've learned so much, and there's been a lot of frustration. And I was asked if I wanted to step in as there's a restart happening. And I said, "Thank you for the question. That's honoring. I will think about it and let you know." And yesterday I responded, um, saying, "Thank you. I'm very honored, but no, this is not for me." And I haven't connected these dots, but this is the thing, because there's a few people here where it's that constrictive feeling. And then there's a few people that my heart is just wide open to. And I know they will be involved in this too. So for them, I want to say, yes, I'm in. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the constrictive feeling trumps that. It actually does trump that. So I told my I told the people that are the ones that make me go, yes, that I would love to do this because of you,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I won't. And just the fact that I wasn't a yes when I was asked the question
Yeah.
tells me that I'm not a yes. In this particular instance, it doesn't have to be that way, but here it's like, yeah, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
deluding myself if I go with this, because there is mm, that constricting, that closing, which is wisdom speaking, which is
Absolutely.
experience speaking, which is it's the wrong setup.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because one of the biggest factors in this is that thing that makes me go. It just it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's like cogwheels that, either there's no oil in the system and it just goes, right? Or they're actually misaligned so that it doesn't connect. It doesn't continue on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's a nice
so
image. Yeah.
no, thank you for asking, but no.
That's great. What I really like about that as well is the fact that you put that margin in between the kind of, I guess, the stimulus and the response to being asked and actually responding, and yeah, kind of really listening to that, or allowing that decision to almost expand from within, and to to tell you, no, this is not a good feeling one. Because yeah, it's often easy to go with your gut reaction. So finding places to, if you can put that margin in, I think we've talked about like absorbing things before, like shock absorbing, and yeah, just being spongy in those sorts of ways. Yeah, that's cool. How did you feel after you'd given your thanks but no?
It felt good. I got thanks for telling me back immediately. And it is that aspect of a touch of sadness because I am like honoring the fact that there's wishful thinking going on here. I wish it wasn't so. I wish I could, but I haven't changed enough for me to play in this team with this team. There's still just these it's like no, I'm not a good fit. And there's sadness to that,
Mm.
because I would want to be. And the way my work situation is at the moment, this might have been a really good opportunity opening in the next year. And I can again, I can paint this picture, right?
Yeah.
And I'm quite good at fairy tailing, if you can use that as a verb. Uh, and that's been coming up quite a lot in my process-oriented therapy that I've been attending for the past year. In the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or something. This wishful thinking. I'm fairy tailing something. I'm conjuring something out of nothing. In a sense, I'm trying to build a castle,
Mm.
but there's no actual bricks and cement and wood beams, and it's just imagination. um so there's a touch of sadness that is the fact, and then there's this a little bit of I'm proud that I'm honoring myself, that I'm seeing this for what it is. I'm seeing the fairy tailing that I'm doing, and I'm not going along with it. Um, which also means there's a lot of energy that can go somewhere else. What I won't be spending on this, what will I be doing with that?
Yeah. It's an interesting thought. Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, I find it helpful. I'm sure other people will find it helpful just to hear you talk about the complexity of that feeling and the sadness and being able to hold those those grey different responses to the decision you're making, and you're making it from a position of wisdom and yeah, awareness and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's not, suddenly reach this point where every decision I make is either this light bulb or this, I don't know, not a light bulb. um, yeah, and actually, you're in the midst of it, but you can become aware of, okay, what are the things that are most important to me as I make this decision? What's missing? What are the things I'm actually sad that I'm, like, talking about the people that you would have been working with, and actually, there are good things in most things, but that's not always enough to mean that you should do it.
Precisely, which I think actually harks back to the intention for me this year. This
Yes.
is a perfect example of where all of me is party to making the decision.
Hmm.
All of me, all of the different aspects of me have a say. Um, and kind of not doing what I've done before, where the voice of the intellect, because I can intellectualize this into being a great
Yeah.
opportunity. There would be so many potential perks here, both learning wise and money wise and network wise. And it's like experience. There's a lot of it. And again, old me would have that be the bigger vote. Like it has more weight. It's like
Hmm.
father has spoken. Okay, everybody else has to keep quiet, because father has spoken. It's like, no, it isn't that. I'm the I'm the one whose vote is the one that will give it a yes or a no. It's like
Mm.
it is merely one vote.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the middle of you're like the judge in the middle making the decision based on, okay, yes, there are intellectual reasons for doing this. There was also this feeling that I had this, yeah. And you're totally empowered in the middle of that as the
Yeah.
decision maker. Yeah, that's really, because I think the intellectualization, for me is a massive thing. It's like it suddenly makes the decision either a no-brainer or um, you know a stupid thing to do, and actually something might intellectually make no sense, but it's the right thing to do, and vice versa. It might make complete sense to follow that from a particular angle, but it's not the right thing to do. Yeah, I love
It
that.
reminds me of there's so much. It reminds me of democratic schools, which is a form of free schools. Uh, there's Sudbury Valley or whatever they're called, Sudbury schools, something or other. It's like
Right.
there's democratic schools. I think Brooklyn also has one, but where everybody has one vote.
Mm-hmm.
Every student has a vote. Every teacher has a vote. If there's a principal, the principal has one vote. Everybody has one vote, and they're equal. They're on the same plane. It isn't a stacked hierarchy. It is one vote. I have my one vote, and you
One
have your
person, one
one
vote.
vote.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, and again, intellectually, shit, I can have problems with that. Imagine a school of 300 kids and 30 teachers and staff. Like, if the kids gang up on us,
Mm.
our vote should count at least as much. I can go into all of these reasons why that would not be a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? Coming from this hierarchical entry point into it, I guess, where, well, I'm older and hence I'm wiser and hence my vote should count more, which is precisely what my intellect says when it looks at the system of me where everything has one vote. My intellect says, no, no, I'm wiser, I'm more experienced, my vote should count for at least as much as the rest of you. Um, it's like,
Yeah, it's like
no.
I need to be 51%, 51%, but yeah.
Precisely. And it's like, no, you are one vote. You don't have more than one vote. So it's interesting to kind of experience the discomfort that this is, because it has been the truth for me for so long. My
Mm.
intellect has counted more. I have let that vote be the deciding one.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet the the opposite is true for a lot of people as well. The intellect loses to the feeling or the fear or the whatever it is that kind of maybe drives emotionally. Um, yeah, that's interesting to think about. I love that in the context of that, all of me
Mhm.
intention, and because there's almost two elements to that. There's probably more elements, but like two that I'm really seeing is making that decision from that spirit as all of me is making this decision, and also the intention being almost the filter, or the when I make this decision, will what results mean that I'm living in step with that intention afterwards. And I think that, because that's how I've always uh, sort of sat with my intention, or like using them as a filter to say, okay, if I follow this opportunity or do this, will that enable me to be, live with that intention or that spirit afterwards? But I love that the other side of that being, am I in the decision making process of deciding whether or not to take the opportunity? Is that intention? How am I, bringing that spirit to that moment itself? Don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but yeah.
I think it does. And again, the the fun part for me is kind of playing with this, coming
Mhm.
at things from different angles, doing which is kind of letting all of me have, listening to the voice of each part of me. Actually, like stepping into, here's the gut. Okay, listen to the gut. And here's the heart. Okay, listen. And here's the little toe saying, no, no, it's
Mhm.
like doing that. And then at the same time, being on the outside, kind of witnessing. And maybe there's parts of me that aren't as aware of the intention in the moment because they are in the grips of a feeling of
Yeah.
an experience, right? Okay. Then maybe my inner observer can say, okay, let's ask little toe in a while after, because he just stubbed himself. It's like he's upset at the moment. Let's just wait and see what. So it's fun to play with this. Um
Mm.
mm. And Monday I was in a therapy session with Dominic, and I've been working for me more than usual. I've been kind of, you know, still a lot of it is from home, but not just. There's been days away, like full days away, which I don't do that often. And so it's like there's been a lot of work. Uh, and I said, when there is that much work, so I haven't written down. I've jotted down the notes from the past 3 therapy session, but I haven't actually fleshed it out, which
Mhm.
I usually do flesh out before the next week session. It's like, I just haven't. No, Dominic said, I've noticed this. 2 weeks of no ratings from you. And I go, yeah, because it's like when I work this much, and it's not unreasonably much, it's just much for me.
Yeah.
When I then have a half day or a day where there's no work, I can't get into the writing. It's like I have to just be first. And
Mm.
Dominic looked at me and he said, yeah, you have to come home first. And I was like, that's it. That's precisely it. Right? It's like I have to give myself time to just be with all of me before I can do any writing that's actually of the quality that I want to put into this particular thing, right? It's like,
Mhm.
because that one can't be done just on top of all of the other things, which my intellect tells me it should and could.
Yeah.
My
It's like
intellect
the
says,
doing, just you can
the
get that done.
doing, just
Come
do it, just do
on.
it. It's like, of course you could.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing because I still do my morning rituals, which is basically giving me time to do whatever. Usually it's reading, usually it's writing, this type of writing. There's been no writing of this sort, almost. There's been a lot of reading, and there's been, just social media, just checking in. But
Mhm.
so my intellect says, you have had time, you
Yeah.
should. It's like, no, actually, because I have to come home first.
Yeah.
Then I
Mm.
can do that. Then there's, again, it's the constricting and the
Yeah.
expensive aspect of this. It's like, ooh, here.
Mm.
Yeah. When I come home, it's expanding. I am expanding.
And it's that the planting, this the doing coming out of a place of being as well. So coming home to yourself, the being, and then the doing. You know, the no need for the motivation almost thing. Whereas so often we're orient, oriented in the opposite direction where we think, okay, I'll reach a place of being. I'll be able to come home to myself if I just do enough. If I do this, then I'll reach my being. And it just doesn't work like that. You can't get to can't get to a place of being through the doing.
That is so interesting. And I wonder if it's true or if it's so I'm kind of going off on a tangent, I think. I have someone in my life who is has a diagnosis of bipolar disease. And, depressive states of like nothing, counterbalanced by manic states of everything, of
Mm-hmm.
like no sleep, just high energy, high energy. And then in the depressive state, it's like no energy, zero energy, no food, no movement, no nothing. Right. And I've been pondering this a lot and thinking about how, so connecting the dots, I wonder at the space in between those two poles. What am I doing there and how am I being there that might or might not push me or move me towards either of the poles?
Mm.
And I've been, especially the depressive state, I think it's this aspect of you need to eat every day. You need to move every day, preferably outside, get some sun, which you can get even if it's cloudy outside. You do get sun. It's like, and you need to sleep. And I think you need social engagement of some sort. Whether it's just a text, preferably it is actually a physical person there, someone to touch, someone to breathe with, and preferably someone who is in a secure state of like vagal nervous state,
Mm.
right? So that I can co-regulate and gain access to well-being.
Yeah.
And those all feel like doings. But maybe they are doings on that, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs
Mm.
level. Maybe they are at that base where those have to be there in order for the being to be there. And that what we're speaking about here, the being and the doing in this stance, is on the higher levels of that
Mm.
hierarchy. Maybe, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. That's a yeah. After I said that, I was like, yeah, that can't be universally true about everything. That you can't get to being from doing, because that no, that is absolutely right. Like it's yeah, and I think that using that kind of bipolar state is a good example, um, because it's those basic functioning doings that bring us like basic well-being, I suppose. That yeah, the kind of self-care at the bottom level is a series of doings. But yeah, it's the different, I guess it's that, again, that motivation part where it's like, I suppose you see the frenetic doings with the belief that it's somehow going to change you. And so it's a it's it's about your beingness being something different to what you are, or like this belief that I need to find myself, I need to step into being myself, and the way to do that is to do all of these things. Like when we're talking about the goals, it's like, if I do all of these things, then suddenly I will discover who I am and I can be myself, as opposed to, no, you are yourself, you are, the being is there. And so it's finding those, I suppose, the grounding doings, aren't they, the centering doings that just bring you back into communion with yourself, in a sense. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I'm reminded of Alan Seal, who's I have like I can close my eyes and look and see him standing like a cross, and just the how the being is this vertical beam that goes down into the earth and up into the skies, and the arms stretched out are these horizontal aspects of doing, right? And if I'm way out at the end of the fingertips doing, I'm so far away from the place where these two intersect.
mm-hmm.
And it's like the closer I can get to this intersection of the being and the doing, it's like, whoa, what can happen from there, right? And that's the maybe it is a dance between them. Maybe it is this. And that dance is made easier if the being and the doing, two sides to a coin, right? If that coin is really, really thick, they're farther apart than if it's a thin coin.
Mm.
And if I'm at that intersection, that's a thin coin. The doing infuses the being, infuses the doing, infuses the being, infuses the doing. Whereas if I'm, if it's a lot, it's a thick coin or a thick wall or whatever you want to imagine, right? It's like, it's harder for the being to infuse the doing, and it's harder for the doing to infuse the being. Which maybe also is what happens in a state such as being bipolar, in the manic state and the depressive state. It's like I can't reach the other side. Even though it is two sides to a coin, the distance between them is either too far or just too dense or something. It's like I, I I have a hard time coming through on the inside to the other side. Mm,
It's
it's
really
interesting
fascinating.
that.
Yeah. So much to ponder.
And it's so fun to ponder.
It is.
And I like being able to ponder and like not having this feeling of I have to have it all figured out. It's
Mm.
like this person popped into my mind when you said, and it was like, where, it's like, what's the connection? How does this, what's there? And instead of like, no, I can't do that because I don't have it all fleshed out. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's flesh it out. Let's
Mm-hmm.
see how did, what was that connection? It's like, what was that leap, that jump, that dot that suddenly popped up, and how can we connect it? And now here we can kind of connect it to several things that we've said, and it's like, oh, look, it is a
That's
type
so
of the
true.
map making, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. 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 Seeing how everything connects.
And relates.
And yeah, and also to a great degree letting go of, as you say, the need to have everything figured out. Like again, it's flipping it around to no, you figure things out as you go, as opposed to no, I need everything figured out so that I can express myself. Um, yeah, ponder is actually a very lovely word. I've never pondered the word ponder before, but it's got a. I've in my mind been transported to a pond, and just like like looking for little bits of life under rocks, and um, yeah, I wonder what the origin of the word ponder to ponder is. I don't know, but that's where I
Yeah.
am in my head, and that's what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. And to me, it's like it's nice to get your view of the pond, because for me, ponder is it. There's a gentleness to it,
Mm.
and there's a stillness implied. It's not stormy weather when you're at
No.
that pond. It's like, no, maybe there's a ripple from the wind now and again across the water surface, but
Hmm.
it's not like hurricane mode and everything is just going everywhere. That doesn't feel like ponder to me
No.
at all. It's much more of a stillness. It's much more of this deliberate, okay, here's a rock that has really, really lovely moss on it. I wonder what's underneath the rock.
Hmm.
Or look, there's a frog sitting atop the rock. Where does it want to go? It's like
Yeah.
it's that um
And then the frog jumps in, and there's the little ripple across to the other side. Oh, that connects to that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, precisely. Precisely. When you do map making, do you write? Do you draw? Do you have a actual piece of paper with your island on it and you're making marks as you
Yes.
explore?
All of that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I imagine my favorite part is imagining the different landscapes and contours that, so like part of the process would be thinking about like past setbacks and challenges that come up, and like creating areas of that around the different areas of the island. And so okay, um when I make shifts in stuff with, say, my emotional health or physical health or whatever, this is something that often comes up as an obstacle. And rather than saying, I won't let that happen, it's kind of fully allowing it to have a space on the map. Um, and then you can work out, okay, where are the roads around that? How can I navigate through it? Like, what am I going to need? Um, in terms of like stuff in my backpack as I'm walking around, and all of those, like, very kind of metaphorical, uh, like visual thing. But I do that with drawings, and yeah, create those contours, and also write. So yeah, quite descriptive language around what it's like to travel through those areas and stuff, and the some of the characters that I come across. Like there's trolls and hobgoblins and all sorts of things. Like it's an adventure kind of island, treasure sort of island, um, which is where I kind of bring the playfulness in, um, and yeah, it's just narrative creating in that respect.
So this is because this is Return to Serenity Island is a program or a course or a
Yes,
thing.
it's a course. Yeah, so
Yeah. So how fleshed out was it when you kind of said, let's start, let's get this thing out?
it, when I first so it first came out at the beginning of this year as like a not very fleshed out course. It's more of a concept. So I included that as part of my membership site on the Haven, and then I thought, okay, no, I'm gonna make this a little bit more like there's more to this. I need to travel into it and flesh it out a bit. And so yeah, that was around March. I got deep into flow. I was just wasn't doing anything else except for creating this course, and got really really into it. And then realized, okay, this needs to be its own standalone thing, I think. And the most interesting development was when I sat down to create like a meditation, like a meditative ambient piece of music, that with the intention of it being something that people could listen to in order to just slow down and get into the right sort of energy and spirit before working through the course. And then that turned into an entire like kind of narrative arc of 6 different pieces going through the different stages of the course in, again, a descriptive, not a prescriptive way. So opening it up to the imagination, and it was a almost otherworldly experience, because it was like it was properly just happening to me, as opposed to me being like, right, I'm going to make this and then I'm going to do this. It was like, okay, these soundscapes are making themselves known, and I'm just like this conduit allowing them to happen. And they became like almost probably the most distinctive feature of the course, like in terms of what makes it a bit different to anything else that I've come across. Um, but yeah, like they augment it as opposed to being the entire thing. But yeah, it's so now it's a standalone course, and I'm planning. I think this is what I think is in my head, but it could change. But to have like little excursion, like group coaching excursions and stuff around specific things within the course throughout next year. So like little mini group coaching programs that sort of come out off the main
But so
course.
it is a course. I could find it
You can
and buy
find
it
it.
now.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
It's serenityisland.me is the URL
Mhm.
for it.
Okay.
But
So
yeah,
I can so it is a like it's not a cohort based. It starts this date and you have to sign up
no, it's a
before. It's like
self-paced course.
self-paced.
Yeah, and then yeah, I think there's going to be sort of little cohorts, little
Mm,
island excursions.
mm.
Um, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like yet. But I feel, because it's something that's been on my mind with this new music as well, is having some kind of project based, whether it's a mastermind style group, don't really like that word, but like a, an accountability group that mean, like, if there's other people sort of working on very specific creative projects or businesses or whatever, to have that stepping through the next year or the first half of next year, because I'm very aware of my own tendency to go full on into a creative project, and then when it comes to the end of it, or I finish creating it, I then sort of move on to something else and don't see through the maybe the promotional part of it.
Yep.
um
Yep. Been there, done that.
yeah, and so I think just from a personal perspective, having a group of people to travel with, to keep, I guess, the motivation, to come back to that word again, keep that up through that. Because I know, because it's something that if I was okay with that, that would be fine. But it's always been a frustration, because it's like, there's always this little, almost a sabotage type thing
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
and I can make an excuse by saying, well, now I'm working on this other
Something
creative
else.
project. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but that's a form of sabotage, isn't it? Yeah.
In a sense, it's like tending to your kid until they're 10 instead of tending to your kid until they're 18 or 20 and actually ready to fly on their own.
Mhm.
but it's like you stop when they're 10, when they still need you to help feed them and clothe them and care for them and have fun and go on family holidays and all of that stuff. It's like, no, no, but I've gotten you this far. It's like, sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm out of here now because
Yeah.
I have a newborn over here and I'm not going to bother with you.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm not, yeah, I'm kind of getting the hang of myself and I'm out there in the world because I'm in third or fourth grade or something. But it's like, but I'm not ready to go it alone yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which is precisely what that's the feeling now that I have with doing Gentle with an Edge, the ebook that I
Mm-hmm.
that I put out. It's like, there's the work and stuff, and then, okay, here it is. Yeah, but what about the rest?
Yeah.
What about how do I help it actually come to a point where it in itself spreads the rings, right? It's like where the ripples are from it.
Mm.
It's not there yet. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. It
that's
feels different.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, and again, intellectually, I'm like, I know for, like, I believe in this work. It's like with the Serenity Island course, like I believe, and I've seen the impact that it's had on people. Like people have shared, how much it's um, affected them and helped them. And yet, yeah, there's still there's some sort of blocker there that, even though it's like, yeah, by seeing through that 10 to 18, 10 to 21, those years, you're actually, you're giving a gift to people. Like it's not, it's, I think I was reflecting on this again last week about the idea of that when you turn to the promoting something or to sharing something, it almost feels like you're asking people for a favor when you in this mindset of like, I'm burdening people with the thing that I've created and they're doing me a favor if they buy it or if they use it. Um, and I think with my music, that's always been a mindset I've only just recently sort of identified. Of actually, when I listen to music, I'm not doing it to give the artist a favor. Like I don't care if they like know that I listen to it or not. Like I'm listening to it because I really really love this music.
Yeah.
And yet when I've created something, it always feels like, well, they're only listening to it because they're trying to do me a favor. Like, what is that? Such a weird mindset.
And you should listen to episode 33, which is not released when we're recording, but will be released when this is released. Me, Matthew, and Inma, we speak about kind of the entire topic centers around grief and gifts.
Right.
And we speak a lot about the market economy and the gift economy and the difference between those two and how Matthew was kind of pondering the impact of podcasts in his life. How a certain type of podcast, like this type of podcast, where we are actively relating, we're actively building a connection and like it's happening in real time, and how he can then kind of gain so many little gifts from this,
Mm-hmm.
where it's both the actual co-regulating with us because we are in a good state of mind, and that will come across for listeners too, right? um Seeing what happens when a friendship is formed, how does it, what, the ways that these things grow and again ripples. um and also how a podcast in and of itself, it's like most of them are free in the sense that, yeah, I kind of pay with my time. But I don't have to pay to listen to this. It's available online. Yeah, I need to have a computer or a phone and stuff, but I have that anyway. So it's like just this. So he was kind of in that dance of how it's a gift to be in a conversation like this. Then someone else will hear it. And man, that feels like I can give a gift to somebody else. And it's like so it's so many layers of just that thing, which kind of can get thwarted or ignored if you're kind of in the market economy place of I have to make money out of these, so I'd better enter in commercials or, you know,
Mm.
whatever it is. And then it turns into that doing for the doing
Yeah.
type aspect rather than, okay, but here we are doing and we're being.
Mm-hmm.
And we are here like and just that is
Mm.
a gift. And when I took the creative workshop on the Akimbo workshops, which is where I've met, thanks to that, I've met Matthew and Inma. One of the prompts was about generosity. And Seth Godin speaks about putting your stuff out into the world is the generous thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is a gift that you're giving somebody else. So I have that part down pat. Yes, I put things out.
Yeah.
But what about the next level of generosity when I actually make sure that, okay, my baby that's now 10 years old and can, kind of competent, but still not ready to fly on their own? What's the generosity that I can show by actually doing the next 10 years as well, like
Mm-hmm.
until it is ready to fly? And then I can kind of go, okay. And I can have other projects running at the same time. That's not it. But
Yeah.
to actually kind of, it's almost like a life cycle uh, aspect on it.
Mm-hmm. I suppose it's incorporating it into the next phase of family life. To take that analogy, is like you've brought brought the child up and got them to a place of, even to that point where, okay, I can leave the house and leave them home alone and all of that sort of stuff. But the dynamic evolves to make sure that they're not just constantly left on their own or turfed out or ignored or whatever. It's like, no, it's a new integration within things. Because I'm exactly the same. Yeah, like I don't have a problem giving the gift of releasing things. Like that's not. I don't have a blocker there. Like I can do that. But then it's, yeah,
Yeah,
like yes, I've let the 10-year-old go into town on their own, but they still want to be a part of my family. How do I, you know, how do I
precisely.
navigate that?
Precisely. How
Yeah,
don't I kick them out of the house saying, no, you're 10, you can be alone for an evening. So I'll just leave and you can, or you just leave because, you've proven you can do 3 hours.
yeah.
Then you could
Changing
do
the
three
locks. See
years.
ya. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. Bye. It's like, no, it's actually not a good idea. Um, and it's interesting because it's like when it comes to my ebook, then I can get myself intellectually into such a weird place where I go, but I released that in what, February this year or something. It's like I can't go back and do something with that now. I can't do a reading or some type of thing around it because it was released
Mhm.
10 months ago. It's too late.
Yeah.
Why? Says who? Says
Yeah.
who?
Exactly.
Except for the troll in my head that goes, cannot. That's not how you're supposed to do it.
Which is precisely why maybe it's a good thing to try doing. Like, and I think that'd be something really powerful about coming back to something, even just setting that example of coming back to something that has been out there for 10 months or even longer, and sharing both from it and what you've maybe learnt since releasing it, and that kind of like we have this like obsession with the idea that new equals better, and actually I think there's something about going back and visiting old, maybe with the power of hindsight and with the ability to talk about the dots that have connected for you since you put that out. But maybe not even that, maybe just to go and revisit that thing and to enjoy it with fresh eyes. With like, I love going back and listening to some of my old music and just being like, how the hell did I make it? Like I've lost all ability to remember exactly how the creation happened, and so I can enjoy it in a totally different way, and I can probably talk about it in a slightly more objective way as well, and in a way that my ego is no longer sort of wrapped up in it. And so I think that, yeah, you talk about your ebook, that could be a really interesting thing to explore. Like, yeah.
Two things pop into my mind when you say this. Uh, let's just see so that I don't. One is about marriages. The other one was what you just said. Oh, yeah. First divorce. Marriage is first. So I just saw the other day on Facebook a friend of mine who was renewing her vows with her husband after 29 years of marriage, which is kind of that thing. It's
Mm.
like revisiting, re-honoring, reifying, doing something about something that was important then, and man, is still important now. But I want to put that new aspect of it, like it's a way to kind of put a pin in the map,
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Yeah, this one. I wanna remember this one." You know.
Yeah.
So I really liked it was lovely seeing, she shared a little bit in writing, a couple of images and stuff. It was just lovely to experience the love
Mm-hmm.
that is what they were honoring. Again, it's like we want to honor this again. But then when um, in 2015, I think, I was planning my new English website, which then was helenaroth.com. That material has been transported to tankesbjörn.com, right? But I was working with a friend of mine who also took Supercoach Academy in 2014, who, she's a skilled artist, Sandra Koenig, but she also has worked a lot with marketing and with, like many years ago, but with like Apple and the big firms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, we got into a conversation where, because the theme of my helenaroth.com site was really doing gentle. I hadn't even added the edge yet. It was doing gentle. So the images I had, the wordings I had, all of that. But I was sharing with her how my first marriage kind of, ended in a explosion, and how all of that thing. And then how me and Anders, my second husband, had gotten together, etc. And I was sharing it, like you say, more objectively.
Mm.
I wasn't in the feeling. I wasn't feeling the hurt. I wasn't there. I'm outside of it. That wound has healed. That, it's like there's no blood gushing from me there. It's like I
Yeah.
can share that. And she was moved to tears from what I spoke about, the love story of my first marriage, because it was a love story. And it was so interesting to see how when I'm a little bit distanced from it, she was free to just experience the thing
Mm.
without any consideration of me, just there. So that in and of itself is a gift.
Mm.
Like, so doing that thing and not always having to go for the new story, the new thing, the new whatever it is, it's like maybe that can actually be a little bit too sticky for people to be able to relate to it because they know, oh, well, this is. And then you come to this place where you feel that others are doing you a favor because they're buying your book or listening to your music or whatever. It's like, because I'm not, I'm a little bit too in it.
Hmm.
They're not free to explore it for themselves. They
Yeah,
have to, because I'm there. I'm in their face asking, do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it? How do you like it? Do you like it? Right? It's
that's
like,
a really,
get
really good
off,
point.
please.
Yeah, yeah. It's being so. Yeah, when you do it, do you like it? Do you like it? It's my thing is telling, or your reaction to my thing is telling me something about me. Like there's something deeply personal about it. And yeah, just as you're saying that, like it makes me realize I find it a lot easier to share older music that I'm no longer wedded to in that sort of sense of it's saying something about me right now. It's like, no. And I don't feel like you're doing me a favor going and listening to the album that I put out in 2009. I feel like let's enjoy this gift. Like this is, no one can take this away. And it's like, let's go and visit that together, or I'd love you to, experience this for yourself. Cause I know it meant a lot to me at the time. Like it doesn't, even if you're critical of it now, that doesn't say anything to me as I am right now. So I'm non-attached. Yeah, I think it's the difference, like the difference again between sort of non-attachment and detachment as well. Picking up on what you're saying in your proximity to talking about your first marriage, for example, it's like you could be detached in terms of being still emotionally attached but refusing to look at it properly, or you can be, as you say, healed in the sense of like that I'm no longer, the blood is no longer gushing out from that, like that wound has been healed, and
Tended
that's
to,
more of a
yeah.
non-attachment. Yeah.
Yeah. I had 2 weeks ago, I was at a client of mine, um, speaking to the CEO, and older gentleman, business owner all his life, and or not all his life, but for the past 22 years, something. And when I released my book in the spring, I mentioned it, and he was like, "Oh, I want to buy this." So he bought it, and I helped him download the files, and he shared already then with me that he really enjoyed it and how it made him think. He got a lot of tankesbjörn from that book, let me
Hmm.
tell you. It's like, so we have these really interesting conversations, but we haven't spoken about that in a long time. And then 2 weeks ago when we were there, we had a little bit of a pause. And he said, I pick up your book now and again, and I read a few pages, I read a few entries, and it makes me think. And just him, this is a book, he read it in March or something, right? And the fact that just the gift of him telling me that this book is still with me, every couple of weeks, I pick it up and I read one or two
That's amazing.
entries. And just, wow, just that.
Yeah.
And then, and I always have to think, I always get something. And it's like, and I can't, you say that you've been so harsh towards yourself. I can't imagine that, it's like, and it was just such a, such a fun kind of proof, in a sense, of what we are speaking to here. The fact that for the people who will find value in it, that value will be found, whether it's newly released or whether it was an album from 2009,
Yeah.
right? So there's something to this that and also in this world of constant consumption and new and more, there's something refreshingly other
Hmm.
in this aspect of like going back and listening to an old album. But it's new to me, perhaps, or it isn't. But I haven't listened to it in 10 years.
Mm.
Like rereading books, like
It's
we were
just, yeah,
speaking about.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, just having that experience, like just picking up the book and flicking through it, and yeah, just connect it. It's almost connecting with some part of yourself through this work that you've connected with maybe in the past, and it brings you to a place that is really good for you. Like, yeah, just hearing that story, I was like, I know what my default reaction would be in terms of the favor filter. If somebody said, "Oh, every so often I still pick up your book and read it," my favor thing is, "Oh, you don't have to do that." I was like,
Mhm.
yes, obviously I don't. But that's the mindset. Yeah, I listen to. I every so often go and I put your old album on. Oh, you don't have to do that. Yeah, I know I don't, but I want to. Yeah,
Yeah. It's the lack and abundance aspect of it. Also, it's like this. Oh no, you don't have to waste your time
yeah,
doing that, right? It's like, oh, really?
yeah.
It's like,
Am I saying something about my actual belief in the value of the thing that I made?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I was. That's a little bit like the. I can see now clearly why, like the feature of memories on Facebook, it is there. It's like, it pops up. This is what you did a year ago or 10 years ago. The other day, an image popped up of my youngest. Yes, 10 years ago when he was 7. He was really cute then. Now he's 17. I still love him to bits, but the cuteness factor is kind of, you know, over and done with. Let's put it that way.
different. It's a
But it
different
was
kind of
this
cuteness.
a different kind of cuteness for sure, because 10 years ago, my kids were at a studio, a photo shoot with a friend of ours. And so this was one of the images of him from that
Right.
professional photo shoot. And it was one of those 10 years. Wow, the time. And 10 years. Wow, look at him. He was so cute. And 10 years. Where is he now? Wow. It's like, so that memory feature of it popping up kind of for me randomly, I don't know what will pop.
Yeah.
Um, is kind of like that gift of, and if I were then to use oh no, you don't bother with that thing.
Mm.
But there's joy in there. There can be grief in that. There can be all sorts of experiences in this revisiting of what was. Who was I then?
Hmm.
Where was I then? What was important for me then? And it is just the aspect of rereading books that we were speaking about
Yeah.
last session, where it's like it's an opportunity to ponder,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's such a good point. And yeah, those because you can approach it, I guess, again with the um, maybe finish here because I need to go soon. But the expansion and contraction or constriction thing, where you engage with the things from the past in a way of either wishing you were still there or wishing that your son was still 7, like really clinging to things that can't be clung to, things that are lost. Or the expansion would be to see that as the gift, even if it's the gift of sadness, and to think, oh man, yeah, like those were really special days, and to even grieve the fact that yeah, that is over, but it's a gift both to be able to see that. It's a gift to have had it, and it's a gift to be able to yeah engage with it now
Yeah,
with that
revisit it.
feeling. Yeah,
You know, it's snowing outside.
beautiful.
It's a little bit weird.
Do you get a lot of
It's
snow?
early.
It's too early, is it?
Yeah, I live in a place where it's not always snow in the winter. So for here, snow on the 1st of December is like
Right.
kind of odd.
Yeah, you're in the south, aren't you? South
I'm in
Australia.
the
Yeah.
south, yeah. The north have had snow for a month or
Mm-hmm.
two, you know? Here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy, for today.
Thank you. It's always a delight.